Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey. I am joined today with the wonderful, the magnificent Jason Neal, Patrick Harris, Johnston Yellen, all the way from sunny Virginia.
Wet, spring-like Virginia.
Oh.
Yep, our high 80s, our low 30s centigrades are behind us, and now we're back to high 50s, single-digit centigrades, Celsiuses.
Yeah.
But what's amazing, though, is I would expect a break from the allergies, and it does not happen. So something else in the air.
Yeah, you get them bad. I don't get them at all. I'm blessed.
I do.
Yeah.
Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but today's guest gets them bad as well. I don't know if he talks about that in the interview.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we are. What month is it? What month is it? This episode drops in April.
This episode drops April 29, and this is a sister episode, or I would say maybe a companion episode to our time with Matt Strickland.
Yeah.
Who he was the author of Cask Management for Distillers, amongst other titles. And when
he has other titles as opposed to the book has other titles.
Oh, wouldn't that be funny if it had other?
Remember when some of the magazines would depend on which coast of the America they were being released on would have different covers? Do you remember when magazines did that? Sports Illustrated did that a few times around.
Oh, you're talking about like the swimsuit. They
have done it for the swimsuit. Yeah. They would also do it for like sports championships and things that dropped around the same time. So,
did Sports Illustrated have like issues other than the swimsuit ones? Like were sports involved, or was it just swimsuits?
They had 52 issues a year that were not the swimsuit issue, which was only one a year. But who's counting?
You just got it for the articles? Was this the case?
That was. I was traditionally an article reader.
There you go.
That's why you only know about the one issue. But speaking of Matt Strickland, speaking of that focus around cask, we did put out our 3 bourbon full maturation whiskies.
Exactly.
Our Glenmorangie, our Ben Nevis, and our Balmenoch for the Balmenoch bunch. Mm-hmm. And delightful. Sales came in days 1, 2, into 3. Here we are, a week or so later, a week or so since that. Yeah, bottles remain. Don't hesitate. Lovely whiskeys, really lovely whiskeys.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for, and I know you are too, right? But we're still waiting for our own sample bottles. Typically speaking, we like to ship to nation members first before we get our own.
Absolutely.
And but going back to our little sample bottles and tasting, I really hate to admit it, and I know I mentioned this in the previous episode when we first started talking about these casks, but my gut told me, you always have a favorite, right? My gut told me I'm probably going to like the Glenmorangie 13 the most, or potentially the Ben Nevis, right? Second fill bourbon that gives us that Ben Nevis funk. But then I keep on coming back to that Balmenoch 12-year-old, and I think, Jason,
you're determined to get into the bunch. I'm determined.
Am I allowed? Do I need a membership card?
Yeah. Just keep up this type of behavior, and you might earn it. Dr. Matt Bishop is the final arbiter of who will enter the Balmenoch bunch. So play your cards right with him. See what I did there?
Pro level. Pro level. There you go. Dr. Matt
For
Bishop,
viewers,
Whiskey Distilleries.
For the viewers, there's a little something in front. For the listeners, I'm holding up the Whiskey Distilleries of Scotland playing cards. Oh, that was batch 1 I was holding up. When we were in Scotland, Matt was very kind enough to drop off batch 2.
Hey, there you go.
As you can see, it is still shiny plastic covering around that. But what a thing he's up to over there. What a great thing. Well done, him.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, Balmenic Bunch, I tell you, just like we said, the number of people that came up to the table in Edinburgh and were like, Balmenic, yeah, I'm a big Balmenic fan. Yeah, I really like that. I really like Balmenic. Let me taste yours. It's building. It's absolutely building. You and I say it about the Glen Spey as well, right?
I was just like
the Glen Spey that's out in retail, US retail, number 15. And that Glen Spey over there, people discovering Glen Spey are going from officially never hearing the name of that distillery to saying, wow, that's really good. And that's really textured, right? Yeah. People really digging on that. So, we've said it, like independent bottlers need to show other distilleries. We have plenty of them in Scotland. We have plenty of them around the world. And showing different sides. And I think that leads us to today's conversation with David Blackmore.
That it does, yeah. So David Blackmore, global ambassador for Glenmorangie and Ardbeg, and longtime friend of ours since before the company, right? Absolutely. Since when we had blogs. But I want to bring this up again. This really is a companion episode to the one we had with Matt Strickland, because when we were talking with Matt Strickland, that was the focus on bourbon casks and what the whiskey does within bourbon cask maturation. And man, we got really geeky with him on that front. And today with David, we're talking about cask finishing or extra maturation. And I think it's maybe less geeky and more philosophical, and I kind of like that approach to it, right?
Well, because I think it is something we've grappled with, and it's something we've heard from the listeners of this podcast. Which is, what is finishing? How is it defined? What's the difference between finishing and double maturing, right? And you get to hear David's thoughts on exactly that. It's, and there's really nothing in the SWA rulebook. And so you're kind of trying to present consistent information yourself for how your brand or how your company looks at it, considers it. Think of over the Bruichladdich days. I think Murray McDavid, I think it's fair to say Murray McDavid were in on that as well, shared ownership. But you had the acing, the time of acing. And what did acing mean outside of their company? They certainly explained what it meant for their company, but it's not like the rest of us were moving into acing. Matt, Mark and Kate, I managed to bring those together and it did not work. A very poor portmanteau. But Mark and Kate Watt at Watt Whiskey have talked about resting. What does resting mean? Who's using resting outside of their company? So there's always a way here where we're trying to explain. And that's why I really like what you said there about, we get kind of philosophical about what does it mean? What does it all mean? And why?
Yeah. I think I'm trying to remember back to the conversation. We got David's term of finishing, and we talked briefly about our own, right? Where you brought up the good example of the Glenmurray we did, where it was 6 years bourbon, 6 years Madeira, and that was clearly like a double maturation, and we referred to that as such, and not necessarily as a finish.
Well, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Well, and then also thinking about letters, and again, this comes up in the conversation with David, but letters that we've received or emails we've received or, laminated PDFs we've received into the podcast that talks about if whiskey is whiskey at 3 years and a day, then surely if you move it into another cask for 3 years and a day, you've just double matured a thing. And so, I think that's a great philosophical question to ask around these processes as well. And David didn't seem to want to entertain much of that. He kind of pondered it for a second or two. But I think it speaks to how do we do this? But also, and I really mean it when I say it, why? Why do we do this thing? And I thought David did well with that. I think it gives us room to explore in future emails to the nation as we are working on another release to connect the tissue between what we're discussing here and what's being released to the nation. So good conversation. Should we get over to it?
Yeah, let's hand it on over, and I guess we'll see you on the other side. David Blackmore, who happens to be, look at this, he's the global ambassador for Glenmorangie and Ardbeg.
Among so many other things.
Or is it this?
Oh dear.
Is it Ardbeg?
Ardbeg.
I just
Ardbeg dead ahead. Glenmorangie.
Oh gosh.
We are owned by the French, so it's Glenmorangie.
Glenmorangie.
Yes, I've heard every possible pronunciation on both brands, and at the end of the day, I don't care how you say it, as long as you like the whiskey. It really doesn't matter. People think they're offending me, and it's like, no, just, do you like it? Good. That's what matters.
Man, if any viewers or listeners had coming in hot on their bingo card, like that's about the hottest we've ever come into an interview. That really took off.
My first ever trip to up to Tain, when I was still trying to get a job with Glenmorangie, I sort of funded it all myself, and I just kind of appeared at Glenmorangie Distillery and offered to kind of help a bit. I was working for Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and we'd just been sort of bought by Glenmorangie, so I just wanted to get my face out there. And so I stayed in a little bed and breakfast, and I wasn't staying at Glenmorangie House or anything, low budget. And the first evening, I went down to the Duchess, I think it is, hotel, and went into the kind of the working men's bar there, and there was nobody in there. 4 PM, went in, not really anybody in there. I made the mistake of bellying up to the small bar at the Pride of Place bar stool. And first mistake was that like an hour later, the regular turned up and wondered why the hell I was in his seat. I know that wasn't a good start. And then he proceeded, I'm getting to a point here, he proceeded to tell me that I was pronouncing Glenmorangie incorrectly.
Oh no! How did you do it? What was your pronunciation?
And I wasn't, and he was, and he was, and he was from Tain and was already mad at me. So I kind of just let him believe whatever he wanted. He also told me that single malt was way too expensive, and he wouldn't drink any of it now. And this was in 2004 or 2005.
Wow. Okay.
And then by the end of the evening, it was very clear why he thought single malt was too expensive, because he'd finished a handle of the cheapest blend they had all by himself. And the last thing I did was, before I left, was I said, thanks, it was lovely to chat. And here's my business card. You might want to check the pronunciation of Glenmorangie, though, and kind of ran out the door as fast as I could, never to see the guy again. There you go.
That sounds like classic Blackmore right there.
Yeah, that's classic. Making friends from day one.
Well, you did us a solid here by starting in an historic place. Because one of the things we've been asking in season 10 is, as we're celebrating our 15th anniversary of Single Cask Nation, where were you 2011? And I think Josh and I have a fair idea? Because we got to know you 2009, 2010, when we had the blogs. Yeah. And you were a tremendous supporter of those. You were hugely important in us being successful there. Mm-hmm. And so in 2011 for you, kind of where were you?
Oh, gosh. So I was living in New Jersey. I don't know what I did to deserve that. It's only been downhill since, by the way. I was living in
Everybody's got to walk the hard miles.
I was living in New Jersey. 2011 was when my first child, my daughter, was born. And I was at that stage where I was still doing, I was at the most intense level of my kind of international travel, which thankfully is kind of dialed back significantly now because, as I'm getting on a bit, and I genuinely don't think I could do it anymore at that intensity. It wasn't necessarily particularly good for me physically or mentally either at the time. But, it was, I remember my wife being heavily pregnant with my daughter. And one moment I was in Shanghai, the next minute I was in Auckland and, Hong Kong, and then I was in Delhi, Mumbai, all over the place. One of the kind of biggest foot in mouth moments was I went to the Auckland, I went to go to the Christchurch Whiskey Festival.
All right.
And I was on my way down there when they unfortunately had that terrible earthquake. And obviously the event didn't happen that year or for several years. But I got to Auckland and kind of got the first few days of the itinerary they had for me happened. And then it was just kind of, well, you can't go to Christchurch and don't change your flights because the next one on is to Hong Kong or somewhere. So I had a few days off. And I took myself off to Waiheke Island, I think it's called.
Oh yeah,
day there, right? Absolutely. And it was lovely. And I went and I was. It was the middle of their summer, and I'd got a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and I was sort of a little picnic on the lawn at this winery with the views of Auckland in the distance. And I thought this would be a perfect time I think it was Skype at the time. I'll Skype the missus, see how she's doing back in New Jersey.
Yeah, well done.
And I interrupted her, heavily pregnant, shoveling snow out of our driveway. Result.
What a husband. I love it.
Yes.
People say you're better half. Like your wife is clearly the better half. Clearly.
In every single way. Every way imaginable. Smarter, better looking, everything. Harder working, you name it. Just better all around. I definitely traded up. So there you go. Josh, can you email her the link to this? When it
Yeah, of course. Yeah, get you some brownie points. You need them. Put it on. They'll be your ringtone.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the intensity of that travel back then, was that say of 52 weeks in the year? Were you on the road 30 weeks? Were you on the road more than that? Less
200
than that?
days.
200
days, whatever that was in weeks. But I'm not great at math. Yeah,
65
was enough.
I think that puts you right around about 28 weeks, give or take.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of a good amount of it was international, and it was very jet lagged and very late nights as well.
Yeah, sure.
I actually once flew into Seattle, I think it was, from somewhere. Was it China or I don't know. I was out that part of the world, and I flew into Seattle and Dr. Bill had just flown in and we were starting a 2-week tour of the US with him already in that state. And night one, we went to a bar because it was late. We hadn't had anything to eat. We were both jet lagged. And we sat across from this small table in this little bar with like a hamburger and a beer. And mid-conversation, I was still talking. I fell asleep whilst talking to Bill. And apparently I just started like talking my dreams to him. It became just words. Just blah, 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 blah. You should ask him about that. Genuinely, I fell asleep whilst talking to Bill.
Great. I love it.
So 2011, it was a big year with my becoming a dad and all the travel. It was it was a tough one. And I guess there were a few years. 2011 to 2015 were big years,
right?
For me. Where the travel really took off. I'm not saying it wasn't fun. I'm not trying to moan about it at all. But it's sometimes people, I think that the ambassador life is all glitz and glamour. There are elements of that, but the hours and the jet lag and the time away from home catches up with you.
Yeah. I feel like you were one of the first people I remembered. Not saying you were the first, just the first I remember. Putting up that meme on Facebook about what my friends think I do, what my parents think I do, what I think I do, what I really do. And for the global brand ambassador, the really do was sitting in a crammed airline seat with an eye mask on and a blanket up. And
trying to breathe and calm yourself down and actually try and chill for a minute.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I used to love it when flights didn't have Wi-Fi, because it was actually a moment of sanctuary.
100%. Right. I still enjoy that.
You know,
Did you have a sense of what the next 15 years would hold, or were you thinking in 3 years? Were you thinking in 5? Like, because you just alluded to, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of wear and tear on the body and the mind. Did you have the wherewithal to look forward?
No, to be honest, not really.
Blessings, David.
I've always wanted to be an ambassador. I don't really have any I don't have any ambitions to be the brand manager, the brand director, going up the kind of corporate ladder. I enjoy being an ambassador. I do enjoy now managing a team of ambassadors, but the best part of the job is still getting out there. I'm really enjoying building educational programs for the company. But in terms of like the day-to-day of like brand management, there's only so many Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints you can build that nobody reads. That's just not my gig, really. And if I was to do that ever, it would be for myself. You know, I really admire what you guys have done. I'm seeing you from the very beginning, you know, and I don't know if I'd ever have the wherewithal, the balls to do that. But if I was going to put in that sort of effort, it wouldn't be for somebody else. It'd be for me.
It's funny. It is funny you say that, and thank you so much for your very kind words. But it's Josh and I have talked about it, and we've talked about it in some other interviews as we're celebrating 15 years. Yeah. But there's that sense of we were 37, 38, 36, 37, 38, that kind of place.
Yeah.
Doing that lifestyle as you turn 50, it's a very different proposition now.
Completely. It hurts.
I started in the States when I found out I got the job to move to the States. I got the email or letter, I forget which now, on my 30th birthday. Just coincidentally.
Wow, right.
And so I know exactly how old I was when this started. and already a bit late, actually. You know, I would actually think like a 25-year-old would have been probably in a better place physically, maybe not mentally, in terms of like understanding the nuances of how to present to audiences and understanding when things are going a bit south, and how to not freak out and how to deal with that. Because I think one of the big things about ambassadorship is being able to read any audience and being able to get on with just about any audience. Because that's not always easy. You know, there can be people who are just incredibly rude sometimes, and you just have to remember, ambassador, you're an ambassador. Just let it roll over you. On you go. You know,
you can't call them all.
You can't do that. No. I once, I think the worst I ever got to once when someone pissed me off was I said, it was somebody who was just challenging me on everything Ardbeg. And you know, I love the Ardbeg committee, and I genuinely mean that. But every now and then there's a few of them that just are out to prove to you and to themselves and everyone else who's listening that they know more about Ardbeg than you do. And I'm not going to, challenge them. I'm saying, you do. Well done. Congratulations. You know more than me. But here's the rub. I get paid to drink Ardbeg, and you have to pay to drink Ardbeg. that I said that once to a guy, and that did actually shut him up.
Oh, there you go. Well done.
That was a cheeky
It wasn't the greatest ambassadorial moment of my life, though.
Yeah.
Yes. But 2011, wowzer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is one of those surprising. Oh, sorry. Go on.
As my daughter is about to get her learner's permit to drive, and crazy. And she's off. She's going to be off traveling to Thailand this summer.
Oh my gosh!
Like,
she was. I remember when she was just a baby.
Yeah.
I still have on my phone the picture of her when she was born that you sent me. Oh my gosh!
There you go. Yeah. So. Craziness.
Time flies.
And that's why I asked you the unfair question of, did you look ahead? Because we also didn't look ahead,
No.
It's just, it's now that the kids who were newborns and 1 and 4 and 5, Joshua's eldest was just off traveling in Europe. My eldest is currently living in Alaska. Your eldest is about to go off, to see the world. And we've been whiskey people that entire time.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, moving to the US that was 2005. And I'd been in the industry. I'd been with to get the visa to move to the US in 2005. We had to prove that I had been working for the group for 3 years, I think. So that means I was 2002 was my first gig with the Scottish Malt Whisky Society, I think.
Ah, okay.
So if you take it back to my first kind of paycheck in the industry, my career is older than most whiskey. Completely mental.
Wow. 2002, so 24 years now. And was Scotch Malt Whisky Society your first gig in the industry?
Yeah, pretty much. I had been working for a year or two before that for a very small events management company in Scotland that just put on kind of the fun stuff around big corporate conferences that came to like the Edinburgh Conference Centre and the Glasgow Conference Centre and all that. And there would be big corporate organizations put on all the conference, but they didn't have the local in-market expertise to call up. Like one of the first people I ever heard do a whiskey tasting was Robin Lang, R.I.P. And then Charlie McLean. So we were hiring people like that, and I was the guy making the phone calls, making the emails, setting it up, making sure the transportation down to the vaults was set up, hiring that private room, making sure everyone was there and everyone was back on the bus, back to the hotel, off to dinner, all that. And I just kind of started getting into whiskey because I just heard these legends. I was so fortunate just to have just stand in the back of the room and listen to these legends talk about whiskey. You can't not become a whiskey fan. Just
what a time, right?
Yeah.
Like the time that we were all coming up, the starting the writing of the blog was just a time where we were just sharing opinions and thoughts globally. It's remarkable the time that we were there and the things we witnessed as we've come along.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the industry is in a little bit of a funny place right now, but to be honest, all I'm filled with is gratitude that I think all three of us hit the industry as it was taking off.
Yeah.
And it's such a cyclical thing. We could easily have been born a few years, or got into it a bit different in life, and suddenly trying to get into the industry now, different kettle of fish.
It's a completely different
challenge.
Yeah.
So,
very different proposition. Joshua,
I'm very positive, though. I actually think that the industry's it's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine.
One of the questions I did want to ask you, I was trying to give some space to Joshua in case he wants to ask.
No, but go ahead. Let's stick with this. I was going to take us in a different direction, but let's stay here because I'm curious here.
One of the questions for me is, in my own experience, I'm still seeing passion, and I'm still seeing fandom.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a change in buying habits. But I don't think we have fewer whiskey fans today than we did 3 years or 5 years ago. And I'm curious, for you heading up a team of people, a team of ambassadors, what are you seeing and what's your team seeing as you're out in the whiskey world?
Pretty much to build off what you said, and that's where my confidence is built on for the future. The kind of, the term core whiskey drinker, that's a horrible term. What I mean is the sort of person that is into whiskey enough to be motivated enough to come to a ticketed event, either one of our ones with a retailer or something like your events you've done in the past and coming up again. I know any of that sort of whiskey drinker is still that sort of whiskey drinker, and they're still buying whiskey, and maybe slightly less frequently, but not even. They're pretty much buying and drinking whiskey like they always have. And where the numbers for the brands are maybe off, I think, is that group below that are the kind of clandestine, not clandestine, but the almost part-time single malt drinker or Scotch whiskey drinker who likes to have a dram at home, but doesn't really know that much, isn't that motivated to learn anything about it, just goes, oh, I like that, kind of sticks to a few brands and doesn't really go to any whiskey festivals or tastings. We've maybe lost them a bit.
Okay.
Maybe it's a combination of, well, for that sort of demographic, probably GLP-1s and a realization that your doctors told you that what you were doing during COVID wasn't very healthy. And drinking, too much and thinking the world's about to end. So cutting back, and I put myself in that category to an extent. I can see plenty of people, my neighbors are in that category, just focusing a bit more on themselves and their health. And whilst I'm sure the finance teams and the money men aren't very happy about that, personally, I never got into whiskey and into the whiskey industry to flog as much whiskey as I possibly could, because the ultimate extreme of that is always going to end up with people over consuming. And that's why I wouldn't want to work for other parts of the spirits industry necessarily either. I wouldn't want to work for a vodka company. I wouldn't want to work for a company that sold Alcopops. Because it just doesn't come across as, none of that seems very responsible to me, or could easily not be responsible. It's about volume sales. This is about connoisseurship, enjoyment with friends, enjoying the flavor, and enjoying the stories and understanding the whiskeys. And that's a whole different thing. You don't have to get smashed. In fact, you shouldn't get smashed. You can't taste anything if you do that. You've lost all your senses. So it's a totally different thing. So I don't know, wondering a bit here, but I think the core whiskey drinker is still the core whiskey drinker. And we just need to, brands that come back round and realize that, and brands that start talking to the trade. I think one of the big things is that bartenders and retail, the younger crowd that have come into bartending post-COVID and into retailing, through no fault of their own, know very little about wine and spirits in general, and particularly about single malt Scotch. Why? Because we haven't talked to them. What do you expect? And we can go an awful long way to convert, to create a lot of advocates and ambassadors in the trade by getting out there and educating. And not being a know-it-all, just being, here's the key basic facts. Here's our core products. You might not like them straight away, and that's okay. I hated Scotch whiskey when I was right up until like 2 years before I got into the industry. Born and raised in Edinburgh, I hated it. It was just, it gave me the shivers. And it was a moment working for the events company and listening to Charlie McLean and Ian and all these guys. There was a moment where the light bulb went off, and I thought, well, give myself a half a chance here. I'm still not into the smoky stuff yet. And then that came. So part of educating the new generation is, realizing that we are, as we mentioned, the kind of 50 somethings now, and we could easily be seen as condescending old guys coming in, trying to blow the pants off people. But no, like, enjoy it if you can. And if you, my most overused term is when people ask me, how should I drink my single malt? As long as it's putting a smile on your face, that's the way you should drink it. Genuinely, put Coca-Cola in it if that's what is going to make you happy and make you appreciate it. And I hope at some point you will enjoy it without the Coca-Cola. But if you're enjoying it, I'm not going to be the guy to tell you not to enjoy it.
So you mean enjoy it with the Coca-Cola, you monster? Is that
there's that. I mean, it's not what I would do, with a few exceptions. I tell you what, halfway through the face week on Islay, if it's a sunny day and I've got my usual Scottish tan on, I won't quite do a smoky cokey with Lagavulin, but some Ugadal in there would be just fine. And a tall glass, some ice cubes. I'll fight you if you tell me that's not good. Delicious.
Yeah. The only thing I say to people is, because obviously we all get asked the same question all the time on that front, but mine is, there's a difference between a drinking and a tasting. And if you're at a tasting, be careful, pay attention to the whiskey, try not to add too much, maybe a little drop of water after you've tried it straight up. A drinking, absolutely, whatever puts a smile on your face, 100%. That's how you drink it.
And I think if you ask, I'm going to guess that you guys will probably be the same here. I know I am, Dr. Bill. Most of us in the industry, after we've finished like a formal tasting or a presentation with a tasting, we go to the bar and most of us probably select the lightest, least flavoursome beer available at the bar and just insist it's as cold as possible, right? Because it's we're switching off tasting and going to just a drink,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
100%. I love how universal that is. It's so perfect.
Right. Guys, I'm having to be very rude. My 10-year-old son is at the front door. He can't get in the house. Sorry.
Do you tell him that's a him problem?
That is a him problem.
Yeah. When we were his age, we used to have to climb in windows. The current generation, mate, they don't know they're living. They just text their parent.
He could, because I found he climbed in through the dog door in the wall the other day. Clients of Science, I can open it on my phone.
Hey,
should be
there you go.
There we go.
Nice.
There we go. Yes.
So good.
Now, of course, he's screaming upstairs trying to get my attention, not knowing I'm doing a podcast. There you go.
So I want to bring us around to a larger part of this discussion. So you had mentioned early on. You started in this industry and you got to be with legends, Charlie McLean, right? Robin Lang, right? Yeah. And here you are working for how many decades now with Dr. Bill? Are you 2 decades into this?
Yeah.
And what we want to be discussing here, or sort of get a little geeky about here, is cask finishing, and you can't really discuss extra maturation or cask finishing without bringing up Dr. Bill Lumsden. I think you'd be doing the term a disservice, because he's really, he's one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer. I'll let you talk to that, but he's really brought it, I think, from a point of is that a thing we should trust to that's a thing we can most definitely trust.
100%.
Right.
And I still get that from time to time, not nearly as much as often as I used to. Still sometimes get people say, why would you mess up a good Highland whiskey with this wine? And then they tell me in the same breath that they like full sherry matured Scotch whiskies, and I go, you do know what sherry is, right?
Right.
And the answer is probably no, actually. I don't. I've never tasted sherry, real sherry, that's for sure. But Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that. I think sometimes, and it's a bit of a campaign I'm trying to push right now, is to remind our company, to remind the world that Bill's the guy here. You know, there were David Stewart and Dr. Bill were probably the guys that really kind of started this all off. So regardless of whether you are drinking a finish that you like or don't like anywhere in the world from any distillery, it all started with Glenmorangie and William Grant and Sons around about the same time, doing similar things in their own little lanes, not knowing we were doing them until the two whiskies came out. Did Bill Lumsden start the finishing projects at Glenmorangie? No, he didn't. He'd be the first to say that. There were actually people in the Glenmorangie company prior to Bill that had been developing the idea of finishing. But when Bill came on board in whatever it was, 1990 or something, 89, he as distillery manager at Glenmorangie, he very quickly realized the potential of what had been done and what had been allowed to pretty much die on the vine at Glenmorangie Company. The focus was off, a new crew had come in, and we weren't doing much in the kind of finishing world anymore. So Bill really resurrected that and then made it his own. And we think that and it predates Bill a little, the 1963 Glenmorangie that was finished from 85 to 87 in sherry casks, we believe that to be the first documented instance of a Scotch whiskey being launched and specifically talking about finishing. Now, Balvenie Classic predates us and I have no reason to not believe them, also finished. I think the nuance here is, and that's why it doesn't need to be a fight, we both did great things. The Balvenie Classic didn't have any paperwork or supporting kind of launch that talked about finishing, as far as I'm aware, whereas we did. So to post-rationalize and say, oh, well, we defined a category, you kind of have to talk about something if you're going to try and define it. But listen, it's a great whiskey. And the thought process, which is the important thing, was the same, I think. And then the other part of it is actually, and this is a funny one, we've been caught out on a few times. When you finish a whiskey, the company that gets the kind of title of first to do this is the first person to launch the product, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the first person to fill the whiskey into that finishing cask.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure even in your business, you've had instances where you're like, we're doing this. And then somebody else comes out with it before you're like, damn, what? Like that happens. And it's happened to us in my career with Glenmorangie a few times now. We're like, wait, we've been doing that forever, but it's in secret. We haven't launched that yet. And I'm sure it's happened vice versa as well, where we've come up with something claimed that we're first, but actually someone else was before us. But, I don't think it really helps the conversation to be like, well, who did it first? It was clear that both companies were thinking along similar lines, looking in that doldrum of the early to mid 80s, when, frankly, what was there to lose?
Yeah,
Scotch whiskey wasn't selling. Yeah, we had warehouses full of the stuff. Let's drum up some interest. What can we experiment with? Well, the stuff's not flying out the door, so we can experiment here, and let's see what works. So for me, finishing is about creating interesting, new, delicious flavor in our whiskies. And why would anybody be against that?
And that was going to be one of my questions was, how much of it early on, and maybe even through to this day, is let's give this a go, just taking a chance, and how much of it is just obviously knowing the spirit and having an idea of what that end product will be?
That's an interesting question. And I get, obviously not being Bill, but having known him for a long time, I get the impression, as nobody will be surprised to hear this, that Bill himself has learned a lot in the 20 plus years that he's been doing it, 30 years, 20 years I've known him. And his general kind of mantra, I think, is a finish works when it changes the spirit, the final whiskey flavor profile, sure, but not so much that you completely lose the essence of what the underlying whiskey was.
Yeah.
Like that.
And in the modern era, Glenmorangie with our taller stills, blah blah blah, but tall stills, which came first, and then the almost exclusive use of American white oak ex-bourbon barrels, which came a bit later, but not a whole lot later. Those two seem to really go well at Glenmorangie, are very fruity, floral, but maybe a little delicate spirit. Just wouldn't go well thrown into a big thumping active sherry cask from day one. Right. You'd almost immediately lose any sense of it being Glenmorangie. Whereas something like Mortlach, which, Mortlach 16 from the Flora and Fauna range was maybe the whiskey that had the light bulb go off for me. Which is so different in style, in the ethos of the whiskey making, in every aspect from what I represent now. But it's finding the spirit and then working out that spirit style almost dictates what you can and can't do with your maturation afterwards. So Glenmorangie needs to develop its Glenmoranginess in American oak ex-bourbon barrels to get somewhere close to the original or Astar, that sort of ballpark kind of flavor profile.
Yeah.
And then that's the point when it kind of goes to the first station on the train stops, and it can go off and take another train somewhere from there, I guess. It can live for 2 or 3 years in a port cask or a sherry cask, and still have a sense of Glenmorangie to it. But I don't know how to describe it any better than that, because I could blindfold say to you, that's a Glenmorangie, and I don't know why I know that's a Glenmorangie.
I don't know. You've been pouring it for 24 years.
This is your DNA at this point.
Pretty much. On my cornflakes in the morning.
It reminds me of breakfast. Glenmorangie. Hashtag please drink
Incidentally, I had a very weird, this is totally a tangent away from whiskey. I went out on Sunday night for dinner with my wife and a couple of her friends. And there was a dish on the menu that I just knew I wouldn't like, but I had to order because it was so bizarre. And it was a carrot souffle topped with, and it was described as a carrot souffle topped with candied cornflakes.
I think
I ordered it. And it was basically like a pumpkin pie. But it was quite a fancy restaurant, and I had to, typical me, I had to ask the waitress. I said, candied cornflakes. Isn't that Frosties?
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. Candied cornflakes. They're great.
Foie, foie, foie.
What did she say?
Fuck off. She wasn't impressed with my chat at all. So, anyway.
So actually, this leads me perfectly to the controversial chat, and I'm sure you've heard it the way we've heard it, right?
Right.
Finishing is used to make a bad whiskey good. How do you respond to people asking you that question?
I would say finishing can be used to improve a whiskey. Sure, it can. Luckily, at Glenmorangie, don't have to worry about that. And in fact, the few casks of Glenmorangie I've ever tried that were not great would not be something that would end up being finished. The only, and I've only come across 2 or 3 casks ever that were just like, we can't blend that into anything. We need to go call the excise guys and have this destroyed. But it just doesn't really happen. And at the same point, Glenmorangie's in the perfect position, as I said, with that sort of lighter style, so that it's quite a malleable spirit. It's quite a malleable whiskey at that 10, 12-year-old point. It can already be altered. I think if you've got too much of a fault on your whiskey, no amount of finishing will necessarily fix it. But I would do something else. You can certainly re-rack your whiskey out of a cask that's really not helping it. And if you leave it for long enough, you might fix it enough that it can then be blended off into something. You know,
do us a favor really quickly. For our listeners, explain the difference between finishing and re-racking.
I mean, I guess it just depends what your own personal point of view on it is. I mean, a re-rack, I think technically just refers to, transferring into another cask, right? And it could be any cask.
Would it be the same style cask? Would it be?
I think re-racking can mean either. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
I mean, for me,
I only asked because it seemed you seemed to make you delineated the two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that instance, I was kind of meaning re-racking, like if you've got you could take some spirit that had been in American oak casks, let's say, or of not the greatest provenance, and get them out of those casks into really good first fill American white oak casks with lovely creamy vanilla notes, and turn that whiskey around. And I'm trying to think, there's at least one instance of something where Bill has done that. Actually, and I don't know if I'm really allowed to talk about that. It was an Ardbeg. There's an Ardbeg that, and I genuinely can't remember which one it was now. One of our older Ardbegs, some of the stock was bought back off a blender.
Sure.
And predates Glenmorangie Company's ownership of Ardbeg. It was distilled way back. Obviously, it's an older Ardbeg. It had been sold by previous owners to a blender, and then we bought it back at some serious expense. But some of the casks, let's just say, I mean, the stuff had been filled into pretty ropey old casks by the previous lot, understandably, because it was probably just going to be used. The intention of it was to be sold, to be dripped into blends to give the blend some character. But that's not what happened to it. It ended up aging for a serious amount of time in these casks. There's some funky off notes in some of them. Re-racking that stock massively improved the whiskey. And it wasn't about finishing. It was just about using American white oak again. So you don't need to finish to fix a whiskey. You could. And so, I mean, there's no hard and fast. No, that's not what finishing could ever be used for. It would never work like that. A talented whiskey maker might use that in their arsenal, but they might equally just re-rack into better quality of the same oak.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cheers. That's exactly where
I got there in the end.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I was thinking. We, with our last release, we did a 13-year-old Glen Spey that was refill bourbon for 6 years and first fill bourbon for 7 years, right? Yeah. And that first fill bourbon just brought out the magic in that whiskey. It just needed that proper oak to make it a proper whiskey. So that re-racking, I think, is. Yeah, it's good to point out the differences, I think, between re-racking and finishing.
One of the things that just made me think of something, one of the wacky ideas I've proposed to Bill over the years, and I bet you other distillers have done this, but to my knowledge, we haven't. But then Bill often, who is a good poker player, he'll say, "Oh, great idea, David," and then I find out he's that 10 years ago, or to say, great, terrible idea, David, and then 5 years later he comes out with a whiskey and goes, you gave me that idea. I said, you bastard. One of the ideas was like a reverse finish. What would happen if you threw Glenmorangie into a sherry or a port cask from day one, put it in there for 3 or 4 years, and then took it out and put it into an American oak ex-bourbon barrel for 10 plus years?
Yeah,
a reverse finish. Do you know whiskeys that you probably do? I'd be fascinated to know.
Jason.
You do.
We do. We experienced 3 of them. We experienced 3 of them at the Campbelltown Malts Fest, and it was some Springbanks. No, it wasn't nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't. I think some of the people liked the whiskeys. I didn't think that it worked for their spirit. Now, it could work for other people's spirit. And I think the idea is a very cool and interesting one because it does, right? It turns things on its head. But
yeah, because you would kind of take, I could see it as like turbocharging the whiskey, overwhelming it in the first 2 or 3 years, and then taking your foot off the pedal and letting it kind of do that oxidative maturation. I'd almost put it in like a third fill American oak cask and just let it chill.
Yeah, these were Kilkerrans, and they've instead gone with gone with full maturation on them, but then they'd put them into the tired oak to like put the brakes on them. Yeah, like a drag car launching the parachute.
Yeah, exactly.
It
would be interesting to see what those whiskies would do if they were just left in really inert oak for a lot longer.
Right.
Yeah, could be.
Right. To see how much more they could calm
down. I don't know about you, but I think a lot of that kind of 70s whiskey that a lot of people like, a lot of the kind of the real, the whiskey geeks who were the first kind of wave of whiskey geeks, even before us, that they were all not bang on about Ardbegs from the 70s and everything from the 70s. and I often think, well, from what I hear from the guys who made it, like, hygiene standards and all the rest of it weren't that great, and that investment wasn't very good. And at some points they were shuttered, and other points they were ramming it out but it was all going into blends. How is this whiskey so good? And I think a couple of things. One is a lot of it was probably filled into fairly tired oak because it wasn't meant to be that great and it wasn't meant to be that old. But the stuff that got kind of forgotten about and made it to be old and it's exactly the sort of cask you'd want to put that in. Yeah. Slow maturing cask to allow this oxidative maturation to sweeten it all up. So just by happenstance, you end up with this delicious whiskey. Does it mean that everything that was coming out of those distilleries back in the 70s was great? No. That's a huge leap to say that.
I think Ollie Chilton Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and there's no way, you can take an extreme point of view either way on that argument, and none of us can prove our point.
Right, there's no control, right? No, there's no scientific control.
We can't go back in time. We're not going to live long enough to start the experiment now.
No. Ollie Chilton with Tormore and Portnatrue, I think, says it well, which is when you take those decades that we champion and we remember so fondly, we now live in an age of consistency. Yeah. And so, spirit is now consistently good. In that era you're talking about, where things could be a little more hit and miss, sometimes the hits were enormous, but the misses were also enormous.
Oh, big time.
And so we all talk about the massive hits, and we weren't really there for the massive failures. And now in our consistent realm, we're getting consistently good without necessarily the massive hits anymore.
I've got a bit of experience with Glenmorangie and Ardbeg on that. And not so much talking about finishing, but I mean, with Glenmorangie, I've had the opportunity to taste our 10-year-old bottled, what's now the original 12-year-old, but we'll get to that. But 10-year-old bottled right back to, I think, the 50s. So, and from every decade. And the amazing thing with Glenmorangie was actually the consistency. Now, I can't say that for the Ardbegs I've tasted.
Yeah.
The Ardbegs from back in the day are absolutely all over the place. And there's some stunners and there's some as well,
Yeah, your point about the Glenmorangie 10-year-old original being so consistent, that's my go-to whiskey for when I need to know if my palate is on or not.
Yeah.
Like I know that whiskey inside and out, front and center, left and right. Yeah. And if it's not smelling or tasting the way that I know it to be, I know my palate's off. But
I would absolutely say the same. I know if I'm tired if I don't enjoy Glenmorangie Original.
Yeah.
Because I don't make my palate just shuts down.
But now you've got a 12-year-old that replaces the 10-year-old. and it's a bit different. So again, this isn't finishing. Okay. So can we just, seeing as you dipped your toe in those waters, can we dip the toe in those waters just a bit further? Can we talk about that switch?
So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because you're saying it tastes different. Because I think it's pretty consistent, the original 12 now.
I find it to be creamier, more vanilla forward.
Yeah,
I think it sort of overtakes some of the stone fruit kind of peachiness of it. Not in a bad way, but
that's not what I get. I get an amplification of both, personally. Okay. It's definitely creamier, but I get a lot of the stone fruit as well. It's almost like peach ice cream or something now coming through. Okay. There's definitely been a bit of a change from over the years here and there. Very consistent, but there's a little bit here and there. Some of the kind of 90s, 2000 stock was a bit much drier, more sort of herbal. But when I first tasted the 12-year-old original, it immediately I phoned Dr. Bill up and said, Bill, this reminds me of that bottle from the 80s.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, David, you know why that is? The Glenmorangie 10-year-old in the 80s was all 12 years old in the bottle. It's all overaged. So there you go. So, I mean, I think the biggest fluctuation is just that effect on the liquid. But I would say most people would recognize it still as Glenmorangie original.
So I've gone through 2 bottles now since it's come out.
Since last week. Yesterday.
Doing his best to pay your wages, David.
just since I've been boring you to tears.
I've not checked the L codes, the various codes on the back to see if they're different batches. But they've been, each one was very consistent. So maybe they were the same batch, maybe they're different batches. I don't know. But I love it just as much as the original. So it's going to be my new, marker.
Next time you're in Scotland, try some in Scotland. Try the 12 in Scotland. And the reason I'm saying that is the 12 in Scotland, the original, whether it's 10 or 12, and when it was just the 10-year-old, we've always been bottled at 40 ABV in Scotland and most of the world. Right. And we've always been bottled at 43 in the States.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think the US version is just naturally a little creamier, a little bit more mouthfeel because of that. So if you are pining for a little bit more of the old Glenmorangie original, the 12 at 40% might be a thing.
That's so funny.
Who knows? I haven't tried it yet because I haven't been back since we've done that. But that might be the thing.
Yeah. That's funny.
Didn't think we'd hear that today. Joshua should try some 40%
40% ABV.
Wow. Pinch himself.
So I'm going to bring us back around to kind of maybe melding of flavors here, even if it's maybe not finished and I don't know this for a fact. I know the way we talk about Ardbeg Black, which was the New Zealand Pinot Noir casks. And now you've put out the Dolce, which is the new Italian Marsala.
Sicilian Marsala.
And I know the label says matured in Sicilian Marsala wine casks and classic bourbon barrels.
Yeah.
So is Dolce a version of Ardbeg that is bringing flavor profiles together rather than moving Ardbeg itself into a cask that will develop additional flavors?
As a general rule, I'm being very pointed with that description. As a general rule, for Ardbeg, even though it's also Dr. Bill's kind of, at the helm, Ardbeg spirit being so different to Glenmorangie's, as a general rule, we don't finish Ardbeg. As a general rule. Now, there's a third, there's finishing, there's soul maturation in different cask types and putting them together, which is the general rule for Ardbeg. There's also a middle ground where there's a bit of finishing going on, and then there's combining at the end as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it's a general rule, because from time to time there are elements of Ardbeg that haven't fully matured in a Marsala or a wine cask, it was actually, I guess, technically a finish, but it might be 50-50, or it might be a big chunky time, percentage time in that secondary cask. But it will almost always be then married back with classic Ardbeg that's been matured in American oak ex-bourbon barrels. So that's where it's a bit different. Glenmorangies tend to be the journey out of one cask into another and then into a bottle. Largely, it's not a single cask, so it'll be in a bunch of barrels into a bunch of barrels into a bottle.
Yeah.
Here, it's two different barrel profiles. Maturation happens, bring them together as a general rule.
Yeah, cheers. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it just seems. I say Glenmorangie's a very malleable spirit, or even a very malleable whiskey that takes to being finished really well. Ardbeg isn't. Ardbeg needs to be lent on to change direction. It's the super tanker of flavor, it's got its own forward momentum. and taking all of the whiskey through for most of its life in American oak and then a short finish in something is not going to cut the mustard. Is that the right thing? Cut the mustard.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that.
No, cut the mustard. Where does that come from?
your colonel days in the British Army in India, maybe?
There you go. Probably is, isn't it? Yeah.
So with the Dolce, then, were you using the same Marsala casks as was used in the Tale of Winter? Do you know?
This is what I've been dreaming. Is Winter Marsala?
Yeah, it's.
That sounds like Wynton Marsalis.
It is Wynton Marsalis, big man. Oh man, now we're going to go down a Pulp Fiction thing here. Is the holiest of holes. So yeah, this is a Marsala wine cask finish.
It is. I don't know the answer to that for certain, but highly likely, knowing how Bill purchases his barrels. There's a good chance that I can find out.
The Tale of Winter was a surprise for me because Marsala could be a pretty aggressive cask, and when I got it, it was clearly Glenmorangie.
And you're a fan of that whiskey, or
I actually really like it. I actually really like this one.
I like it. Okay, I don't mind it. It's probably, if I were to rank the tail obs, for me, it's bottom of the pile, but that doesn't mean I dislike it.
Right.
This is top of the pile for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes.
Tail of cake.
The newest one, spices. I really like spices. I have to say.
It's interesting what you're saying there, Joshua, that the Glenmorangie, I was about to say Glenmo, and then I thought I better give it its Sunday name since David's here. But when you take the Glenmorangie with the Marsala there, and you said the Glenmo comes through, I just moved from Ardbeg Black to Ardbeg Dolce, and the first thing I noticed was there's much more Ardbeg comes through in the Dolce.
Yes.
And the Marsala is more complementary to the Ardbeg. It's really quite pronounced there.
I think
in that juxtaposition.
That something like Dolce for me is really hitting the mark because he seems to have found the right level of power of influence from the Marsala casks to balance the natural Ardbeg notes in there. That kind of so for me, it just takes me. I know when I've had a good Ardbeg when I kind of have a flashback to standing in that warehouse with a glass in my hand.
There you go.
And this one did it instantly. Like, oh wow, hey, I'm there. Jackie singing a song.
I love it.
Well, Colin doesn't know he's about to be Smirnoff Ice again. Oops. Bryony needs to be very, very scared.
Sounds like corporate hazing.
Cut that bit.
Okay, all right, loud and clear. Okay, one hour. Okay, got it. Yep.
For me, the apricot and marmalade that gets mentioned on the label is complementary to the Ardbeg and would speak to me of being worthy of a cocktail. Like, this is a place, to bring ourselves back to, You could drink this in a cocktail and put 2 ounces of this in with some other
You
fun
offended
things.
David. You look like
No,
you
no,
seriously
look at the
offended.
man's
No, it's
face.
interesting. I started off saying there's no problem with any of that. I agree with you,
But
but
it's been so pleasant till now.
my point of view is that the way you described it, I feel that the cocktail's already been made. Like I say that, I've said that a few times to people in our marketing teams. I'm not anti whiskey cocktails. You know me. It's literally my mantra is, if it puts a smile on your face, then you're doing the right thing. But sometimes people forget that what Bill and Gillian and the whole team right back through, who've had a hand in making that whiskey, what they did was just a very slow motion shake or stir. They've made the cocktail.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
perfect.
That's fair.
It's there. And are we going to now start making cocktails with cocktails? Like, I'm going to go to a bar and order a cocktail and then take it home and make another cocktail out of it.
Yes is the answer. Yes is the answer.
Yeah, this is the new cocktail. Cocktails
here's
made
what
from
I would
cocktails.
So here's what I would say to you. So as a single malt drinker, I would not drink this 2 ounces at a time. I would drink this a half ounce or a 1 ounce at a time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Ardbegs like that.
Right? As a cocktail drinker, I would drink this 2 ounces at a time. And that's what takes you back to the shop. And that's what has you add on. And I'm not looking to make Ardbeg Dolce go away. I'm looking to enjoy that twice as much. That's my fun.
I mean, I think the nuance here is that it's a limited edition, so there isn't going to be huge amounts of it out there. So I don't need, hopefully, to have people drinking it 2 ounces at a time in a cocktail because it's sold out already.
There you go. I'll tell you right now, I do miss Eureka. I think I bought
Eureka
8 bottles
great.
of that last year.
It's lovely whiskey.
I've sold it on to friends at cost. I'm all about sharing the love.
Yeah.
I've gifted a bottle of Joshua. Talk about sharing the love.
You gave him some whiskey.
Yes, he did. Fucking first time, 15 years? No.
But
First time in
Eureka,
15 years.
broken clocks, gift the time.
Gifted
twice a day.
plus with a note with your Venmo details on it.
Enjoy at your leisure. Venmo immediately.
But I mean, it's
Eureka was
this is
phenomenal.
This is a classic example of, like, again, I think it's not a class. It's not a finish. It's kind of maturations and silos then brought back together. It's a marriage, but the idea is the same. It's to get a balance there so that the influence of the fortified wine cask hasn't obliterated the Ardbeginess.
No,
If that's the term,
Nope. Yep.
So,
Nope. You're
And
exactly right.
that was the one with the chocolate malt, yes?
The Eureka.
The Eureka.
oh yes, sorry, Eureka.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
Dolce.
So-
No.
Yeah, he's talking Dolce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the Eureka. Years ago, 2009, maybe 2010, you, me, Dr. Bill were having dinner, and I interviewed Dr. Bill. He was telling me about a project where he was doing an Ardbeg with chocolate malt. Was that this?
Almost certainly, yeah.
Wow.
Although it's not chocolate malt. This is actually what is this? This is not exactly chocolate malt. It's gosh. Anyway, senior moment. It's a slightly different. Yeah, in Eureka, it's a slightly different spec from Signet. It's not. It's not exactly the same spec. So Signet is chocolate malt. Here, technically, it's the name's gone, but essentially, yes, it's the same thought process.
Oh wow! Still,
Yeah,
it's,
but
it's
that
not,
would have
but
been that.
that's
But
so
a
nice.
darker, a darker Lovibond scale barley, but maybe not as far as chocolate.
Yeah, not quite as far as chocolate, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So
then there's
just
sherry
being able
cask
to-
in there. Eureka's magical.
To go from that conversation
Yeah,
from 2009, 2010 to then tasting it in 2026,
right.
just amazing.
25.
2020 time.
It was last year in that instance.
It was last year in that instance. Okay, yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest privileges I've had in my career happened. It was tail end of COVID, so 2022 must have been 2022. My good friend, colleague, teammate Dan Crowell and myself were invited by Dr. Bill. We were invited over to Scotland to come to Glenmorangie Distillery, and we were asked to come up with some suggestions for experiments. And Bill picked a couple of them, and the lighthouse had been run already, but just with regular Glenmorangie barley, to make sure that we could make spirit that tasted like Glenmorangie. So the base was set. But Dan and I got to go down in someone's history books, at least, as the first people to, with the team that run it, because we're not actually physically running the stills, but we were there, boiler suits on, as our two first experiments. Were the first experiments ever to run on the lighthouse. Sorry, you're sniggering at the boiler suits off.
That's the closest you've ever
off, I can tell you.
That's the closest you've ever gotten to a day's work, David. Did you break out in a cold sweat?
It's funny. Dr. Bill was there in a boiler suit too, and I had to get photos to say that Bill, he actually does this. He's not just in his Brioni suit the whole time. But yeah, so we ran the first experiments on the lighthouse 2022, which means now it's legally Scotch whiskey. Well, if it qualifies as Scotch whiskey, it would be legally Scotch whiskey. And some of it did and some of it didn't, but I can't tell you any more on that.
Well, it was whiskey age in June of 2025, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Of course.
Yes, it was.
Yes, of course. I forgot. Yeah. Yes, you have tasted it, Joshua.
I have tasted it.
Yeah,
that's right.
It must have been 3 then. Yeah, that's right. So it's getting on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really fun. Very different.
Right.
Yeah. I hope it comes out. I hope it comes to fruition, because when people get a taste of this, they get to see. I don't know. They just fun. Right, I think whiskey should be fun, and this shows such an incredibly fun side of Glenmorangie, which already makes super fun whiskey from the get go. You know, and the lighthouse. The whole idea with our experimental pilot plant here is that we don't have to now sort of fit in amongst the commercial needs of the main stillhouse. Yeah. We can run as many experiments as we've got a budget for. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, as days that there are in the year. So there's been a lot happening since then. Not all of it I'm party to, but I know they've been doing some funky stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully funky, delicious stuff.
I'm sure of it. Convinced.
So I had one last question regarding the idea of finishing, and then maybe we can sort of wrap things up and get out here and let you get on your way. Some people use different terms. Finishing, extra maturation. What was the term that Brooke Latta used?
Acing.
Acing. What was that? What was that stand for again?
The E depends on who you ask.
Additional cask enhancement.
Additional
cask enhancement.
Some people say evolution on the E. It depends who you ask, but additional cask for sure.
Yeah.
So do you see a difference between finishing and extra maturation? Let's take acing out of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do we go with this? I had never heard of the term extra maturation until it was brought in by us and by a particular era of marketing team when we redid our packaging in about 2007.
All right.
And I instantly took a disliking to the term. Because I think we didn't, why reinvent the wheel? And I think the idea was to try and make it sound a bit more explanatory. That it's a period of additional maturation, but that kind of in some ways for me that under explains the nuance that it's not just about additional maturation. It is this idea of finishing, and finishing for me is almost like being sent off to Swiss finishing school. It's about polishing the whiskey, refining the whiskey. Anyone can throw pump a whiskey out of one cask into another cask. That's the easiest thing in the world, like filling your tank in your car. We can all do that. Finishing for me implies that there's a level of care and attention, and it's a kind of, to a certain extent, a premeditated attempt to get to a particular flavor profile. And that's why I prefer finishing, and I like to see that at Glenmorangie we've kind of crept back. We kind of use both terms interchangeably. But does one technically mean something different to the other? No, none of these are regulated as far as I know. I don't think so. Yeah. It's something that is a question that should maybe be asked to the SWA. It's, should finishing be defined more clearly, or am I just blissfully ignorant and it is? But, for me, extra maturation, acing, it's a finish. Call it a finish.
We've definitely looked it up before, and at that time, and this could have been pre-pandemic, marginally post-pandemic, who knows how time works. But at that point, finishing was just simply the movement of whiskey from an original cask to a secondary cask.
Right.
And time hadn't really been attached to it.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's for us where, we've had listeners write in to the podcast to say, well, surely if you can go from new make spirit from 0 to 3 years in a day, and that's now a whiskey, surely if you move it a second time for a minimum of 3 years in a day, that's a second maturation, right? And so people trying to put some leaves on the branches to gain an understanding of what we're doing. But for me, finishing speaks. I do like what you're saying a moment ago, David, about there's a reason to do it. There's a flavor profile that's in front of you here. I also, once I get beyond about 2 years, 3 years, that doesn't sound like a finish to me anymore. That seems to speak to a further maturation.
I think that's probably a good definition. And actually, some of the classic Glenmorangie, wood finishes have maybe moved under that sort of definition, have moved away from being a finish into the territory of an extra maturation more recently. With the port cask, with the sherry cask being a 15-year-old now, port cask being 14, and the Sauterne cask now being Sauterne and other dessert wines, but at 16, the extra maturate, or the secondary period of finishing extra maturation is a bit longer than we've done in the past in all three of those. But do you define a finish by the number of days and years it's been in the secondary cask, or the percentage of the total time? Because you've got Gordon MacPhail come out with 100-year-old whiskey that's been in a port cask for 2 of them.
We always just bring our calendars with us.
Whereas a 12-year-old whiskey, that's a much more significant percentage of the total time.
Right. So we have done that. So we put out a Glenmurray that was 6 years, 6 years, one cask, another cask.
Cool.
And that to us said double maturation. The two casks had a 50% roll in it.
Yeah. And that's another one, isn't it? That double maturation term, which is much more of a Balvenie William Grant term. Right. But then you get into the whole thing like, what is a double maturation? Is a double maturation 6 years in this cask and then it all moved for 6 years into this? Right. Or is this a double maturation? Because it was X years in this and X years in this and put together.
Right. Right. See, this is why the SWA doesn't want to touch this.
No.
They're just like,
well, one of the things that we've obviously, the SWA has tightened up a few things. So the definition of what a single cask is, and I'm sure you guys are well aware now, that a finish can no longer be called a single cask, right? Basically. Great, I think so.
Unless it's re-racked. If it goes into the same type of wood,
okay,
you can still call it a single cask. If you
that's an interesting definition, because for me that's not. It's been in 2 casks.
Yeah. No, it's with the idea that if the whiskey needed, like we had talked about, right? The idea of re-racking, putting it from tired bourbon into fresh bourbon because it needed work, then that's okay. That's permissible. You can call it a single cask. But if you went from bourbon into sherry or bourbon into port or insert cask here, then at that point, they don't want you calling it a single cask. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's it. I mean, far be it from me to argue against that, but that seems illogical to me. But I mean, what we've done for that with some of our sort of private client offerings that can't be called single cask, we're using the same term rare cask, which seems to get around that.
And we just, our brand is Single Cask Nation, and we say we have bottled cask number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There you go.
Because in the end, we have bottled cask number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think that maybe, I mean, the thing that we're trying to get away from was like 7 casks being put together into a cask for a day.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it comes back to what we said at the beginning, what I said at the beginning, which was, does it put a smile on your face? Is it good whiskey? Right. Is the experience good?
That's it in the end, right?
As long as we're not misleading consumers. Like none of us.
I mean, I brought out 2 of my favorite Glenmoes. We were talking about it before the show. Artane, which was the Super Tuscan, may or may not have been Sassicaia casks. Can't confirm or deny. But Artane in Scots Gaelic means from stone. And Sassicaia in Italian means from stone.
I'm not a mathematician, but...
And then more recently, white Burgundy. If you want to make friends with Dr. Bill, and you're out having a meal with him, buy some white Burgundy. He'll love you forever. But the 23-year-old Azuma Makoto, holy crap, this is good.
You poured this at Julio's a few months back.
I did.
When you had the Whiskey Wednesday there. That whiskey was drop dead gorgeous.
It is so elegant, and it changed my mind on can white wines are they powerful enough to create a good finish? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, with the right spirit and the right guy running the show, yes, absolutely they can. You know, and I think Bill's learning there as well, because I remember going back to Glenmorangie. I love that whiskey. I used to work for them because we used to own them. I was their first ambassador in the States, I think, just about.
Oh, wow.
And you know, the core Glenmorangie back in the day was Chardonnay finished, I believe. And I didn't really click with me. I loved Glenmorangie, but that one for me, I didn't really see the influence of this of the wine. Maybe Bill's learned something since then. Maybe it helps that when you're bottling a whiskey at a particular price point, you're much more restricted than you are if it's an expensive bottle like this. You know, I don't know. There's a lot going on. I think Glenmorangie is an absolutely. I mean, I think people are coming around to it, but I've always said Glenmorangie was massively underrated. It's a bloody good whiskey, and it's great to see some of the amazing bottlings coming out these days. Sure.
I'm pleased to say the nation has been with us with Glenmorangie from the beginning, and we just put another one out in April.
Nice.
Just cracking. Fresh bourbon Glenmorangie put out in April.
That was my first tour once I got the job. They sent me around all 3 of our distilleries. And going into the warehouse at Glenmorangie was the one that surprised me the most. Just and having just cask samples drawn, just like, oh wow, this is Glenmorangie. Oh wow, epic! You know, amazing stuff.
Agreed. Agreed.
Gorgeous.
A lot of Bill's initial experiments that where they were finishing experiments that he didn't feel confident that they were definitely going to be a success. He did some of the more risky ones at Glenmorangie because it was less high profile within the company. And then now that's matured outside of his tutelage, oversight, and there's some stunners coming out. I've tasted a few that I think, right, that age statement, that must have been filled under Bill's regime. Not to say that all the good stuff's due to him, it's definitely not. But there have been a few. Look at that. Look at that.
We bottled a 30-year-old that I thought was under Bill's tutelage. Yeah. But he came in 1995. This was a 30-year-old, all 30 years in toasted oak. And it was distilled in 94. So it was just 1 year. Yeah,
well, so the toasted, was it toasted virgin toasted oak?
Yeah, yep.
So that's the same, that's almost certainly the same Glenmorangie company experiment that our 19-year-old Glenmorangie.
Oh, the
Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah.
Atlanta. That's all. That's got to be the same. That's that era and that was the toasted oak stuff. And Bill didn't do that either. That was just before him, and it had been kind of left to the wayside. Yeah,
that's right. Because Atlanta was a good 11, 12 years ago, so that would make sense.
That was a good whiskey.
Wow, there you go.
Yep.
I remember that whiskey not selling particularly well. That year because people didn't really understand it and it didn't really get out there.
Yeah,
and I remember a colleague.
They missed a charmer.
So I remember a colleague of mine on the sort of commercial side of things who was running Florida at the time for us, calling me up and must have been just got back from Europe after the summer. So late August, and he's like, "Hey, this Atlanta stuff, are there any other markets in the States you think might want some? Can we transfer it? Can you help me find some other markets when you're traveling? Transfer some to my colleagues in other markets." And I had just got the nod that we'd won World Whiskey of the Year with it. And I couldn't tell anyone. I remember just saying, Josh, another Josh, can you trust me, please? Keep it for 30 days. You'll thank me. 30 days later, he called me. He was like, "Thank you. It's all sold out." It's all gone.
I forgot that was the whiskey of the year. I forgot about that.
That's wonderful. See, awards, they're important for.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? They awards are, people like to say all sorts of things about awards, but they definitely, it's a bit like age statements. They don't matter until they matter.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And they most definitely help sell a whiskey.
Yeah. If you need a place to hang your hat, that's a place to hang your hat.
And if they 100%. Could, at the very least, turn someone on to a new distillery, a new brand, and create a new drinker.
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bring on a drinker.
Absolutely.
With that said, that's a good stopping point, Joshua. That's a good idea to get us out of here.
There we go. Well, David, you have been a friend for almost going on 20 years now. Sir, our listeners, viewers don't know this. You had seconded my nomination as a keeper, and I will always cherish that, and your belief.
It was my honor to do so.
Yeah. So
we haven't let him submit one since.
Are you planning on going to any of the? Are you going back to Scotland for any of the banquets or any of that?
Yeah, we were just there in March. We actually saw Billy Abbott when he was heading up to Blackmore to be inducted.
Yeah. Nice.
And so we may have done our one Scotland trip of the year. So tough.
Yeah, my face trip is probably the one big one. I'm going back in September for a few days because most of my buddies are a bit younger than me, so they're all turning 50 this year.
When did you turn 50?
I turned 50 last year.
20 years ago?
Yeah. 20 years ago.
He was celebrating his 50th when I was there in June with Nolan and Markowitz.
Yeah,
and,
turned 50 last year.
Yeah, Gryson.
But all my buddies are turning 50 this year, and it's slightly awkward. We're about to launch That's what I'm supposed to talk. There is going to be a Glenmorangie 50 come out this year.
Oh my gosh.
None of them are getting a bottle because I can't afford that. I might get them 2 bottles of 25.
There you go. 5 bottles of 10. No, they don't
4
sell the 10
bottles
anymore.
of 10-year-old original and a bottle of wee beastie or something. 2 bottles of wee beastie.
Hell, 10 bottles of wee beastie.
10 bottles of wee beastie. I should do that. I should absolutely do that. I can think of at least one friend who would prefer that, just volume drinking.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
One
Just
last
like I got
thought on finishing. I hope you noticed my April 1st Instagram post, which actually fooled a few people, where I posted we were doing a limited edition Ardbeg just for our fans in Chicago. And it was a Malort finish.
The Malort finish, yes.
And one crazy bastard from Chicago is currently home aging a Malort cask.
Paul Brent, right?
He's going to be at Face, and he's going to bring me his Malort finished Ardbeg.
Drink it.
Oh no!
Drink it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, drink it. He does all sorts of Malort experiments. He's also a great guy, but he does weird Malort experiments.
Yes. So Malort Ardbeg is something that might be making an appearance in the sort of shadows of Face.
Could you imagine small batch release Ardbegs that are finished in regional spirits? Like that would be.
It's not a bad idea.
Little marketing there.
Yeah,
people keep asking
I'd quite like to try. I'd quite like to try Malort finished in an Ardbeg barrel. Actually,
I'd rather drink Ardbeg instead of Malort.
That's true. Maybe not.
I'd still drink it. All right. Listen, we really do need to get out of here. But seriously, David, we thank you so much for your friendship across the years and supporting us since well before the company and throughout the years with the Jubilee and just in so many various levels. So we thank you.
Pleasure.
And just hanging out today, learning about finishing.
This was fun. This is what the podcast is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Season 10.
All right. Well, cheers.
Guys. Cheers.
Huge thanks to David Blackmore for joining us. I realize, and we mentioned this to him when we sent the invite to him. Here we are 10 years into this podcast, or within our 10th year of the podcast, and not having him on sooner. I think we've been doing both ourselves and the listeners / viewers a disservice, because he was awesome. Just fantastic having him on.
It was fun hanging out with him. Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah. I really liked his philosophy there of, it seems that to finish something has a specific intention behind it. Like you are aiming to adjust that flavor. It's not necessarily for the reason that the whiskey needed to be fixed, which we quite often say in tastings, right? You never finish a perfect whiskey. But in the case of Glenmorangie, they're designing new whiskeys, right? So they're using that as a function for that, where there was a delineation between finishing to create a new product and extra maturation, where in his words, it was like, well, anybody can just extra mature something. Mm-hmm. This finishing is doing something else. It's creating something else. And I really enjoyed that delineation between the two. Again, it's back to being philosophical, these two philosophical ideas.
Yeah, and it actually made me think of our original re-racking program and our current re-racking program. And it would be you would buy several casks, insert your own number for several here, but you would purchase several casks, and then you would keep some in the original, and then you move some into Oloroso and some into PX and maybe some into New Charred Oak or Virgin Oak, or you would go down that path of then saying, okay, let's see where these go in this?
Yeah.
You know, and how will this work with this spirit? And I think we didn't get into it in the interview, but I think it's a key difference between an OB and an IB. When you're a bricks and mortar distiller, you have your spirit day in and day out. And what stories are you able to tell, and what flavor profiles are you able to present with your home spirit? And as an independent bottler, we kind of have unlimited access to spirits and spirit types around the world.
Yeah.
And so the question for us is, what's that particular one doing, and where might that particular one go? And how do we tell different stories around the casks?
Yeah.
And so I thought he kind of defined finishing in a way that really was specific for a Glenmorangie. And it could be a very different type of finishing / double maturation for us. And I like that door being opened. I like that. I like, you know, we've always respected OBs, you know, as an IB, you don't get, you know, you don't get anywhere without the OBs, right? So the official house distilleries, right? Yes. And us over on the independent side. And so we've always respected that. I still like being able to see the differences between the two of us, and what an OB is looking for and looking at, and what an IB is looking for and looking at. So I thought that came out quite nicely in the conversation.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly, and I love that as a philosopher yourself, you even dug deeper into the philosophy of it all, which you can't help it.
Right? Yeah, that's all philosophy is. It's just asking why and then setting out to try and answer it. It doesn't need to be hoity-toity.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what else do we have to tell our listeners here before we get out?
I would definitely say look at singlecasknation.com. Many tasty treats on there, things that will fit your spring plans, your summer plans. Your gift giving, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but Father's Day is coming up in June, so be aware of that. Mother's Day is coming up in May. And if you're one of the lucky ones to have a mother who would appreciate whiskey, Single Cask Nation can be your friend. The flavor profiles are explained on there. Everything comes with a flavometer. You can see what does align with the palate of your intended recipient.
Yeah.
And so definitely get over there, and then definitely take a look at retail store shelves. US retail release 15 is coming out almost perfectly in line with our 15th anniversary, which will be May 11 of 2026. So to have those numbers align is a lot of fun, a very enjoyable coincidence. So those are a couple of things. I'm sure you have a couple of things as well, Joshua.
Well, I like that you brought that bit up, because we're going to have a special episode coming up in celebration of our 15th anniversary, our 15th retail release, and someone who's been connected to Single Cask Nation really from our inception. So that is our dear friend Sam Filmus. So keep your eyes peeled for that extra episode coming out shortly. That was just so fantastic sitting down with him. So keep an eye out for that. I can't think of anything else. I guess I would say, what? Red rum? Go ahead.
Ring the bell.
And that's where I was going to go. Jason. Yeah. I was going to say you can
nowhere else left to go.
I was going to say two things. I was going to say, A, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because it's super important. More and more, we're showing people things on YouTube videos, and you need eyeballs to view them. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ring the little bell. Once you do, you'll see a little bell at the bottom of the the video, and it'll alert you when a new episode comes out. But I mean, here's a rule of thumb: new episodes come out every Wednesday. However, it's not just podcasts that come out on the Singlecast Nation YouTube channel. We do tasting videos. We've got, long form tasting videos, little short videos, and we've got a bunch of these little, I Am the Nation videos where Nation members actually send in some of their own videos, and we post those on occasion as well. So ring that little bell, and you'll get nice little video surprises if you do that. And then, I think it was maybe last episode or the episode before that where it wasn't questions that were sent in, but it was follow-ups to the 10 Commandments of Whiskey. And those were emailed to us. So if you've got questions or if you have anything that you want to send our way, send that to info@singlecastnation.com. And
I'd like to make a request on that front. We will have a birthday episode, and so if you're of a mind, if you have any birthday wishes you wish to send in, I hate to solicit birthday wishes, but I can't communicate this with you any other way. But if you wish to send a birthday wish, a thought about the nation, something special that happened to you along the way, the 15 years, something where you were 15 years ago, whatever it happens to be, info@singlecastnation.com, and we look forward to reading those out in that episode as well.
There we go. There you go. Got to hit the right banner.
There you go. Yeah. So whether it's, like I say, whether it's birthday wishes, whether it's a memory, whether it's something special with Singlecast Nation, whether it's what you were up to in 2011, cast your mind back that far. But we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to read it out. So info@singlecastnation.com.
There you go. Did you have gray hair in 2011, Jason?
Oh, 100%. Yes, 100%. I had gray hair when I was 11. So, let alone
I had short hair. I had short hair. I didn't have this big, this COVID mop that I just continued to grow after COVID. So it'll be interesting. Maybe release some old videos where I was much younger looking and had short hair.
Yeah, good luck finding those.
Jason, as always, it was wonderful hanging. It was wonderful talking with David and drinking along the way. You with your Ardbeg Dolce, and I had some Glenmorangie Tale of Winter, Tale of Cake, and some of our Great Isle Swim. That was nice to enjoy as well.
Cheeky little bit of Ardbeg in there.
Yep, indeed.
All right.
Well, until next time, cheers, everybody.